We switched things around, used our ending video for the beginning. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, folks. This is Ron reporting from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. As we've been doing for quite some time, we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance and the nation's national anthem. I'm asking everyone to now please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Oh yeah! Come on, folks, let them know it.
America's finest, the United States Army Barbershop Quartet, performing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. These are the most wonderful men that we have serving in our military today. God bless them, and God bless our military wherever they might be around the world, or our allies around the world as well. We love them as well. We respect them. God bless you and thank you for your service. And God protect you until you can come back to your homes and travel home in safety after your tours of duty end. Thank you for your service, gentlemen and women. God bless you all. Folks, we have a lot to talk about tonight, as we normally would do. The first story we have deals with Mr. T. Okay? I don't have to tell you how important that is. Okay? A lot of us respect him. A lot of us respect him, and we love him for who he is and who he stood for. All of us. Today, folks, he was arraigned in a federal court in Miami, Florida. We're going to be talking about that. There's a reason for it. Let me get his picture up and we can talk further here. I have been doing research on this. I have been watching what has been going on from the very beginning. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. A lot of people don't. I'm not the only person that feels the way I do. Donald Trump pled not guilty today, Tuesday, to federal charges, the first ever filed against the United States President, former or current. These are federal charges, not state charges, as he has faced in New York. These are federal charges. The first federal charges ever filed against a former or a sitting president, ever. Trump turned himself in at a Miami federal courthouse this afternoon, and he was booked on the second set of criminal charges he has faced this year. Now, most agencies, news agencies, are only reporting that he was booked and charged with 31 charges. Folks, he was charged with 64 charges. We're going to talk about that. This, folks, Mr. T is the leading 2024 Republican presidential candidate who was arraigned and pled not guilty to over 37 counts, a total of 64 counts, related to allegations that he kept hundreds of classified documents after he left the White House and resisted efforts to return them to the federal record keepers. Mr. T is charged with willful retention of national defense information, conspiracy to obstruct justice, withholding a document or record, corruptly sealing or concealing a document or record, concealing a document in a federal investigation, scheme to conceal, and false statements and representation. Trump aide and co-defendant Walt Nauta. Let me show you a picture of Walt Nauta. This, everyone, is one of President Trump's aides, Walt Nauta. He was supposed to appear and be arraigned today, but the arraignment was postponed. He was in the courthouse, in the courtroom with President Trump. He was initially expected to be arraigned today, but he did not enter a plea as he did not have a local lawyer, and he arrived at the courthouse with President Trump, surrendered, and he was booked. The former president left the courthouse late this afternoon to head back to Bedminster, New Jersey, his property there, for a presidential fundraiser on the eve of his 77th birthday tomorrow. As a condition of Trump and Nauta's release, the pair will not be allowed to contact one another. Ahead of the court proceedings, local police ramped up security presence in Miami. A smattering of protesters, supporters, and critics of President Trump gathered outside the federal courthouse throughout the day. Today marks the second time in little over 2 months that President Trump was arraigned on criminal charges. He pled not guilty in April to 34 counts of falsifying business records. Those allegations stem from a Manhattan district attorney and a probe into a payment made to alleged porn star Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election to buy her silence about the alleged sexual tryst with Mr. Trump and her years earlier. The former president faces more possible legal exposure beyond the 2 charged cases. Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith. Now, I could talk smack about Jack Smith all day, but Special Counsel Jack Smith, working for the DOJ, brought charges against President Trump in the documents probe, and he's also investigating efforts by Trump and his allies to overturn President Biden's 2020 election win. Fannie Willis, who is a district attorney in the Atlanta area of Fulton County, is also probing Trump's scheme to reverse Biden's 2020 victory in Georgia. President Trump will wade through the legal fights as he holds a commanding lead in early polls of the 2024 GOP presidential primary. Republicans have largely defended President Trump's conduct and accused the Justice Department of running a politically motivated probe. Attorney General Merrick Garland, a Biden appointee, chose Smith to oversee the investigation to avoid an appearance of conflict of interest. Regarding the statement made about other things, President Trump is not commenting at this time. He will make a statement tonight at Bedminster, New Jersey. That statement will be broadcast live with Newsmax organization, if you have cable. That will be broadcast live from Bedminster, New Jersey tonight. Now, does anybody have any questions for me? I know I've gone fast through this whole story. Does anybody have any questions about this? Brenda Turner says, I've never been so disgusted with an administration in my whole life as I am with this current one. I am too. There's a lot of people that are disgusted. Anybody have any questions about this story? James Barricus says, funny how Mr. T's supporters were extremely well behaved. If this was Mr. B's supporters, the entire city would be in flames, and I have a feeling that might happen anyway after this is over. Brenda Attorney says, I'm sorry guys, but I've just had my limit with them. Their COLA study just came out today, and it's such BS as well as everything else that they do. You're right, the COLA study is an entirely different can of worms, and I'm also pursuing that because I don't think that's the end of the story in regards to the money that we derive from COLA as retirees. It's insane what the Biden administration have done with that. Anyway, I want to talk to you about Cascadia. I want to talk about Cascadia. There's a lot to talk about here. As I have talked about Cascadia in the past, we spoke about the origination of the Cascadia megathrust earthquake this time. It's over 300 years past due. Actually not 300 years, but it's over 20 years, 25 years past due, since scientists believe it should have hit already. Now, with that said, we told you that before the Cascadia megathrust earthquake hits again, there may be some warnings. There may be some warnings that we would see prior to that earthquake hitting. Well, I was contacted and Terry Rempel left a message for me and left a message for all of us in one of our comment sections on one of our programs the other day. I want to read you that comment. Okay? Regarding the statement made about the Cascadia megathrust earthquakes that would come shortly after two 4.5 earthquakes that would hit within a short time of each other. If you remember, we talked about this. Terry Rempel and I have both said many times that we believe the Cascadia megathrust earthquake, a 9 to a 10.0 magnitude earthquake, would hit after two 4.5 earthquakes or larger. Two 4.5 magnitude or larger earthquakes and or a volcanic eruption. Okay? Terry Rempel sent me this note to be read on the air on our channel. This was a few days ago. We have had two 5+ magnitude earthquakes within a week in the Cascade Range. This was the early warning marker of the Great Cascadia earthquake. These were at Lake Almanor. If you remember, a couple weeks ago we talked about Lake Almanor. It had two earthquakes, 5.0 and larger. Lake Almanor, which is in the southern end of the Cascade Mountain Range. These were 5.5 and a 5.7 magnitude earthquake within 8 hours of each other on May 11th. He said, I promised I would share this with Ron and his audience when they occurred. He said he reported this on his own channel, on the earthquake reports, on 11th May, with an update on the 12th. Folks, this may be the start of something more. Okay? Number one, I personally thought that Lake Almanor was further south and east of the Cascade Mountain Range. Terry says it's in the southern part of the Cascade Mountain Range. Okay? Otherwise, I would have talked about this after those hit. If this is the case, the Cascadia megathrust earthquake could happen at any time. Okay? I'm just telling you, the Cascadia megathrust earthquake could happen at any time. Okay? There are other things that we're looking at as well. Okay? We have seen earthquakes hit all over the Cascadia range outside the volcanoes, outside the mountain ranges. Okay? Let me show you this. This earthquake here happened on Monday. It's over here on the southeast side of Queen Charlotte Island. The southwest side of Queen Charlotte Island here. Okay? Folks, this was a 1.77 magnitude tremor. A 1.77 magnitude tremor. Also on Monday, up in Sitkin, Alaska, this was a 2.7 magnitude earthquake. This is the northernmost earthquake on or in the Cascadia earthquake region. The Cascadia earthquake region. Okay, let's go further. On Monday, there was also a 2.32 earthquake just off the coast of Vancouver Island, over here on the Juan de Fuca Fault. Okay, I want to make that clear. So there's another earthquake in the Cascadia earthquake range. That was only one of them. This is another 3.0, also on the Blanco fracture zone. Since Terry and I have been working together, there have been many other earthquakes all up and down the Juan de Fuca, the Cascadia subduction zone, the Blanco fracture zone, the Gorda Ridge, and the Gorda Escarpment. And in fact, over at the Triple Junction area that you see on the lower part of this slide. The Triple Junction area is where the Gorda Escarpment, the Cascadia subduction zone, and the San Andreas Fault meet. We've had many earthquakes here, a lot of them. Over near Petrolia here, let me enlarge this slide a little bit more. Over in the Petrolia region, which is near shore, we've had many earthquakes there. tremors 1.5, 1.7, 1.9. We've had Tues there as well, 2.3, 2.5, 2.7, and 2.9 earthquakes. If you remember, months ago, I think it's been 3 months ago, we had an 8.0 here as well. USGS had it as a 6.8. And at the time, I showed you all evidence that this earthquake was actually an 8.0 magnitude earthquake down here in the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone, closer to shore, nearly halfway between shore and the Cascadia subduction zone. Unreal, guys. Yet the 9.0, 10.0 earthquake is still not hit. It could. This earthquake can still happen. Okay? This earthquake that I'm showing you over here on the Blanco fracture zone that happened on Monday, this 3.0 that happened on Monday, guys, is just one of many earthquakes that have hit here. Okay? Folks, we may still see that Cascadia megathrust earthquake happen within our lifetimes. It can still happen. It still could happen. It can happen at any time. Literally at any time. Now, folks, a lot of people have made fun of Terry. I've had a lot of people make fun of me because I have covered this. Why am I covering it? Because, folks, if I didn't, no one would tell us about it. No one would tell anything about it. Because the agencies don't want anybody to know about it. Heck, USGS did not even report these quakes. The only one that reported is this one here on the Blanco fracture zone. They didn't report those others over here on Queen Charlotte Island or out here just west of Vancouver Island. They didn't report them. Okay? They don't want anything to do with it. Because then they would have to admit that something is going to happen. They know it as well as anybody. Kimberly Hopkins says, I've been feeling tremors the last few days, just enough to make my TV wiggle a little bit. Oh, that's not the only thing that's wiggled here. Over here on the East Coast. I'm going to talk about that as well. But folks, we are going to have that earthquake. It's a matter of time. Okay? Thunder Signs Diana says, one, many more than one, according to the Canadian quake site. Oh yeah, there have been a lot of others. USGS will not even post them. I could go over to the Canadian site right now and show you all of the earthquakes that have hit up here in the Canadian Southwest, British Columbia area in the past 30 days. Probably close to 50 of them. Has USGS mentioned a word? Not one. Not one. What I'm saying, guys, please stay tuned to this channel. We are the only ones that are putting out any information about this. That's it. We're the only ones. It's crazy. It's literally crazy. I've been working on this a long time. A very long time. Now, with that said, a lot of us have talked about the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. A lot of us have talked about the other New Madrid seismic zone. Folks, I'm going to bring that up right now. As you see, there is an earthquake there in the New Madrid fault area. Right there. This is in the center part of the New Madrid seismic zone. This is a 2.3 minor earthquake here. But folks, this is not the only earthquake. As I've shown you, and I'll show more tomorrow, there's probably 50 to 60 earthquakes, and I'm talking 2.0 and larger here in the New Madrid seismic zone every day. Literally every day. USGS doesn't hardly ever show any of the tremors either. Rarely do they show tremors. Let me give you an update on what the Cascadia subduction zone has and is going to do. Okay? We talked about the East Coast. Okay? We talked a lot about the East Coast. I'm going to talk about the East Coast a bit here as well. The New Madrid fault actually begins in Mexico. It crosses under the Gulf and curves up through Louisiana. It curves up and goes up through Louisiana. Let me back this out a little bit so you can see what we're talking about. Okay? You can see Louisiana right down here. Okay? The New Madrid seismic zone starts way down here in southern Mexico. It crosses under the Gulf, curves up through Louisiana. It joins briefly with the Ramapo fault along the east coast and winds north where it touches the St. Lawrence Seaway. The St. Lawrence Seaway up here. Okay? We're not done. Now, this fault is spreading wider. The New Madrid fault is spreading wider. The Ramapo, as you know, runs north through New Jersey and Massachusetts and New York. During the New Madrid adjustment in 1811 and 1812, again, the New Madrid earthquake hit in December 1811 and it continued through January 1812. Now, when it hit, church bells rang in Boston from the shaking. Yes, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Okay? We talked about this before. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge is spreading. Let me show you a picture of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? We talked a lot about this as well. Okay, you can see the Mid-Atlantic Ridge here. It starts way down here in the southern Atlantic Ocean here. Okay? And goes all the way up here through the Atlantic. The southern Atlantic, the Mid-Atlantic, and the North Atlantic. Okay? The Mid-Atlantic Ridge is a fissure running the length of the Atlantic Ocean. It's spreading and open and putting intense pressure on the U.S. East Coast of the North American plate. It's putting intense pressure on the East Coast of the North American plate. And I'll show you a picture of the craton in a minute. Okay? But the North American fault or the North American craton can't move, as it shares a boundary with the African plate. However, west of the New Madrid, the landmass that we call the mainland can move and does so to the southwest. Remember the St. Lawrence Seaway? Thus, the brunt of this movement hammers southern Mexico against the smaller, also subducting Cocos Plate. Thus, all of the earthquakes along that coastline, up through the Isthmus de Tehuantepec, move. they move. The Atlantic plate is pushing the North American plate in a south-southwesterly direction. We have shown you earthquakes even as of yesterday up here in the Canadian, Ontario, and Quebec region, and even up in Nova Scotia area. We've seen earthquakes all up and down the East Coast here. We've seen earthquakes in New York. Just a year and a half ago, we reported to you a 5.1 earthquake that happened in the early morning hours of a Sunday morning in Boston, Massachusetts. And then it was discovered after that earthquake hit that maybe one of the reasons that the Boston earthquake happened was because Boston has a volcano. Boston has a volcano, and it's right in smack dab in the middle of a residential area in Boston, Massachusetts, where that earthquake hit. We showed you a picture of this a year and a half ago after it happened. We showed you a picture of lava rock in that same area. Okay? Since then, we've reported on earthquakes up and down the East Coast, like I said, stretching from Canada all the way down through Maine, New Hampshire, Delaware, going down into New York and Pennsylvania and Connecticut. We also showed you a volcano in Connecticut. Isn't that interesting? It's called Sleeping Volcano. Sleeping Indian Volcano. And it does look like a sleeping Indian. Earthquakes all through that area as well. All the way down to Virginia and West Virginia, which are along the coast. Why? Because, folks, these same states have the craton running through them, the Eastern Continental Divide, and you can see it in the slide right now. The Eastern Continental Divide. We've shown you earthquakes even as of last week. Earthquakes all up and down the coast here. Virginia here. In North Carolina. South Carolina, we showed you earthquakes. We showed you earthquakes in Georgia. Yes, Georgia, guys. Again, the North American plate, the Eastern Continental Divide, runs through Georgia as well, before it makes a sudden turn to the west. And you can see it. It goes back up nearly to where this earthquake is in Missouri. It still goes north from there and west through Oklahoma. Through Oklahoma. It continues over through Colorado and down into New Mexico, down into Utah, or I should say back up into Utah, Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, and goes way up here into Alberta, Canada. All the way up here into Alberta, Canada, and north to the Yukon. The Rocky Mountains here. This is the western part of the craton. The Western Continental Divide, if you will. Okay? It's moving. Why do you think we see all these earthquakes here? There's a reason. Number one, the Atlantic plate is expanding. It's putting pressure on the Eastern Continental Divide, which is also putting pressure on the New Madrid, which is also putting a pressure on every fault line, natural or man-made, westward across the entire continent. Now, it doesn't stop there either. What happens here on the West Coast? What happens here on the West Coast? Over here, folks, we have another problem here. Another distinct issue. We have the Pacific Plate. We have the Pacific Plate taking a nosedive deep into the center of the Earth on the West Coast, underneath the West Coast of the United States and Canada. The Pacific Plate, the Farallon Plate, and the Juan de Fuca Plate are taking a nosedive directly underneath the continental United States and North American fault, the North American Plate. That's also putting pressure on the West Coast. It's putting pressure on the mountain ranges of the West Coast, including the Sierra Mountain Range. The Sierra Mountain Range. And all the mountains and hills between the Sierras and the Mexican border going south. Putting a great deal of pressure. What does subductions do? What do subductions do? They put pressure on the fault zones. Okay? What do you think mountain building is caused by? Subduction. As that land mass takes a nosedive in towards the center of the Earth, it's also causing mountains to rise. It causes mountains to rise. That's how we got the mountains that we see. The Sierra Mountain Range, the Rocky Mountain Range. Let me tell you a little story. Okay? And it's based with our ancestors. Do you guys all know the reason that the Rocky Mountains are called the Rocky Mountains? Does anybody know that story? Anybody remember why they called the Rockies the Rockies? Uplift. Uplift. As that Pacific Plate takes a nosedive, and it's been nosediving for a lot of years, hundreds of years. That's why we've had earthquakes up and down the coast. That's why we've had a Cascadia megathrust earthquake before. Mountain building. The Swedes call the Rocky Mountains the Clipping Barrier. Okay? The climbing mountains. They're climbing mountains. Okay? Mountain building, guys. And along with that subduction in the mountain building, we get volcanoes. You cannot have volcanoes except and only if you have subduction. And there has been subduction in the past over in the Atlantic. That's why we have volcanoes on the East Coast. Now, I was going to finish a story yesterday evening, and I ran out of time. I want to tell you about some volcanoes in Virginia. Okay? Tonight I want to tell you about some volcanoes over here in Virginia. Okay? You don't see any earthquakes here because the USGS will never tell you about it. Tomorrow I'll show you earthquakes over here in Virginia again. Again and again and again. Every day there are earthquakes over here in Virginia. Tremors and quakes. Okay? Let me tell you about 3 volcanoes in Virginia. Okay? It's crazy. I found this out just because. Okay? I ran into this story yesterday morning. For some reason, Virginia's chunk of crust was squeezed by tectonic shifts, the plate moving. Perhaps as the North American plate rotated slightly in its drift westward, in its drift southwestward. Okay? Changing pressures may have weakened old Paleozoic faults, hundreds of years old. And basalt. Basalt lava rose from 18 miles deep. 18 miles deep in the mantle. In the mantle, guys. Let me leave this USGS map here for right now. I want to show you what happened. I've got a really cool slide here, if I can find it here, and I'm sure I will. You guys just give me a second here. I want to show you this. Right here. Okay? This is an example of a volcano on the East Coast, or almost anywhere. Okay? But this is exactly what happened in Virginia. And this is a cool story. It's a really cool story. Okay? The basalt magma down there came up from deep in the mantle. And 2 of the volcanoes in Virginia, Trimble Knob and Mole Hill, appeared to be what they call diatremes, formed when magma intercepted shallow groundwater. Magma intercepted shallow groundwater near the surface at a depth equivalent to maybe the length of a football field. Now, when that hot 2,000 degree magma hit that cooler water, what do you think happened? That colder water flashed into steam as it hit that hot magma, that superheated magma, and it erupted through the overlying sediments, meaning it blew it out. It blew out through the ground, creating a crater that they call a maar, M-A-A-R, M-double-A-R, which fills with fragments of magma, which are called tuffs, T-U-F-F, and broken surface rock. Okay? That magma rushes up from underneath the ground and breaks through it. Okay? That hot magma reaches that cooler groundwater, and that groundwater flashes into steam, causing even more pressure, which breaks through the underlying rock down there and blew it out. Rainwater can accumulate in that new crater. Similar to what we talked about when we told you about Crater Lake in South Central Oregon last night. That water coming into that new crater formed a lake until erosion carved a channel in the edge of the maar. The edge of the maar in the crater. The steam explosion and the maar formation occur in just a few minutes. It blew out possibly in as little as 3 minutes. Magma moved upward through the joints, the faults in that area. Okay? There are volcanic faults. Okay? Faults in the area. That hot magma, when there's a fault, we've talked about this before. Somebody asked a question, I think it was last week, about possibility of magma coming up through the faults. Yes, it does. And that's what we're talking about here. Okay? The magma worked its way up through the joints in the fault until it reached a rich source of groundwater. And boom, bango, boom. That hot magma made that groundwater flash into steam, creating even more pressure than the magma had as it was pushing upwards. Okay? At the contact between the hot magma and the cooler groundwater, the water violently flashes into steam, shattering the bedrock while incorporating some of the magma. The material is then expelled upward, breaching the ground and becoming airborne. The material falls around the crater, forming a hill. Okay? It forms a ring of tough magma that's hardened is called lava. And that lava becomes a tuff around the crater. Now, that is just one of 3 volcanoes in Virginia. Okay? That's just one of 3. Okay? The first one is called Mole Hill. Mole Hill. Let me show you a picture of Mole Hill. Okay, this is a picture of Mole Hill. This is just one of the volcanoes over there in Virginia. Okay? Both Triple Knob and Mole Hill appear to be diatremes, formed when the magma intercepted that shallow groundwater near the surface at a depth equivalent to possibly the length of a football field. The water flashed into steam. Okay? A huge explosion occurred. And that erupted into the underlying. Okay? It breached the ground and it became airborne. And all that material, all that rock, all of that lava, all of that steam, and possibly even water that's left over from the explosion fell back around the crater. Okay? Now, let me show you Triple Knob, or Tremble Knob. This is Tremble Knob, Trimble, Tremble Knob. This is also volcano. The reason we do not have a closer picture is this volcano is on private property. There is a landowner and he does not allow anybody on the land. There are fences up there to protect people encroaching on the land or even visiting that volcano. They're not allowing that. Okay? That's strictly off limits. At Tremble Knob, the molten lava moved at 40 to 70 miles per hour up to the surface. The trip from the magma chamber beneath the volcano to the surface took less than 4 days. It encountered groundwater and in a burst of exploding steam formed a crater on the surface. Erosion, meaning glaciation, water, ice, removed the crater, but it exposed the lava. It also exposed the magma channel leading to the surface. Yes, folks, there's now a cave there. An empty lava channel leading down into the earth up to the surface. Now that other volcano molehill is a site of the most recent volcanic activity east of the Mississippi River. There is little potential of any of these volcanoes re-erupting at this point in time. Little potential, at least for now. The most likely scenario for that to occur is the Atlantic would stop expanding from the mid-Atlantic ridge. If tectonic pressures shifted and the eastern edge of the North Atlantic plate began to subduct under the European plate, then a new rift valley would form and volcanoes could reappear in Virginia. So if the Atlantic plate would start subducting under the European plate, there could be a possibility that the East Coast volcanoes would reappear. Again, you can't have volcanoes without some kind of subduction. Molehill that I showed you here, let me bring it back up here. And we don't know how high. Well, we have some kind of elevation that they have put as several hundred meters high at Trimble Knot. But Molehill here, let me show you Molehill again. Molehill is just a little bit different. Molehill is quite a climb to the top with steep slopes. But according to climbers, and yes, it's not on private property anymore, it belongs to the state of Virginia. Molehill was private property until a conglomerate got together and then donated it to the state of Virginia. And according to hikers and adventurers, it is an adventure that is rewarding to climb to the top of Molehill. If you are up for a challenging hike, huge hike, with breathtaking views, they say, from the top of Molehill. The extinct Trimble Knob volcano that we showed you is in Monterey, Highland County, Virginia. Okay? On Earth today, there are 1,500 volcanoes on land, which have erupted. All of them have erupted during the last 10,000 years, according to scientists. The largest is Mauna Loa on the island of Hawaii, and it just barely erupted about a month ago. There are 161 active or potential active volcanoes in the United States alone. Okay? Linda Covington asked, does that have any connection to the Luray Caverns in Virginia? I must say yes. I believe the Luray Caverns are part of the magma chamber after the magma left the chamber. They left open cave, basically, from what I understand. Okay? But there are 161 active or potentially active volcanoes in the U.S. The closest to Virginia is the Valdese caldera near Santa Fe, New Mexico, about 1,200 miles away from Virginia. It is closer to the southwestern tip of Virginia than the Saba volcano in the Netherlands, the West Indies, east of Puerto Rico, and the Durango volcanic field on the eastern edge of the Sierra Madre Occidental in Mexico. The Valdese caldera in New Mexico is also closer to the erupting lava vents in the mid-Atlantic ridge. The erupting lava vents in the mid-Atlantic ridge. Yes, we have submarine volcanoes in the Atlantic Ocean. And I have even put my name on one of them. It's called Ron's Volcano. Ron's Volcano. It's over by the Bahamas. Okay? But the Valdese caldera is also closer to the erupting volcanic vents in the mid-Atlantic ridge east of Virginia's eastern shoreline, out in the mid-Atlantic. Typically, at least 20 volcanoes are erupting at any one time on the land. And that's what we've seen recently. Okay? And I'll talk about recent eruptions today in just a few minutes. Since the end of the last ice age, some 12,000 years ago, over 1,300 volcanoes have erupted on land. In recorded history now, there have been documented eruptions from 567 volcanoes. That's just in recorded history. There are perhaps 1 million underwater volcanoes, seamounts, concentrated along mid-ocean ridges, such as the Juan de Fuca Fault off the coast of Seattle, going all the way down along the coast of Oregon. The Cascade subduction zone also has the same kind of undersea mount volcanoes. Okay? The Virginia volcanoes are not the only ones east of the Mississippi River. Okay? We talked about Mississippi, in particular Jackson, Mississippi before. The capital of Mississippi, Jackson, was built on a volcanic dome. A volcanic dome, uplifted by a 70-million-year-old volcano. A 70-million-year-old volcano, and Jackson, Mississippi is sitting on the top of it. The now solid igneous rock of the Jackson volcano lies 2,900 feet below the Mississippi Coliseum. So folks, picture this. Picture this, if you will. The Jackson volcano lies 2,900 feet below the Mississippi Coliseum, where we have all kinds of games. Hockey games, basketball games, and other community activities. That Coliseum is sitting on the top of right on the top of a volcano right next to I-55 in downtown Jackson. Now, let me tell you another story. This is cool. A well was drilled for natural gas, and it ended up being an artesian well that is now supplying a swimming pool there with 92.5 degree water. The hot artesian well from the Jackson volcano is supplying a swimming pool with water. Isn't that interesting? Okay? If you want to know whether a volcano has water underneath it, oh yeah, there's always some kind of water down there. There's always a water table someplace. Okay? Like I said, this is Mole Hill. This is Mole Hill. Now with that said, I want to tell you about some volcanoes that have erupted today. Okay? Let's go back to the USGS map here. Let's go back here. I'm going to take you back across the Pacific Ocean here. Back over here to Kamchatka Peninsula. Right here, this is Shiveluch Volcano. Just about a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer than that, Shiveluch Volcano erupted up to 85,000 feet high. 85,000 feet high. USGS denied it for several days. We announced it. We found the information. We announced it. USGS denied it. Then with egg on their face, they had to realize that people had seen it. So USGS acknowledged it. By that time, the jet stream had caught the ash from Shiveluch Volcano, and that ash had already started coming down in Alaska. Today, Shiveluch Volcano erupted up to 12,000 feet high. Flight level 120. Now, another volcano that is across the ocean from Kamchatka Peninsula, quite a distance across the ocean here. Down here into South America here. And I'm not even sure whether we can truly find it here. I believe it's right here. Okay? I believe it's right here. Sangay Volcano. Sangay Volcano erupted up to 20,000 feet high today. 20,000 feet high. Shiveluch up to 20,000 feet high. But Sangay did not even steal the heat. Okay? Sangay Volcano has a sister there called Reventador Volcano. Reventador Volcano. Reventador also erupted today. It wasn't such a huge eruption either. Okay? There's no volcanic ash advisory at Reventador today, but it did erupt. And they're saying that Sangay Volcano is not going to stop, with a possible ash advisory, at least for the next several days. So we have Sangay Volcano there. Okay? I want to tell you about another eruption there. Okay? That was Sangay. This is Reventador Volcano right here. Okay? Then we drop down here to Peru. Okay? To southern Peru here. I believe it's right in here someplace. We have Sabancaya Volcano. On one of these mountain ridges here, in fact, it's probably right there. Okay? Sangay Volcano is in the southern part of Peru. It also erupted up to 23,000 feet, 7,000 meters high. 7,000 meters high. Now, further to the north, okay? I probably should have showed you this first, because this is over in Colombia here. I believe it's right here. Folks, this is Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia. Nevado del Ruiz also erupted. 20,000 feet high. 6,100 meters high today. Nevado del Ruiz volcano. Okay? Not to be outdone, but there's other volcanoes that also erupted today. down here in Guatemala. Fuego volcano erupted. Fuego volcano has been erupting for quite some time. Okay? A 16,000 foot eruption, 4,900 meters high. Fuego volcano. Isn't that interesting? Fuego volcano has been erupting off and on for years now. Okay? Then we go over here into southeastern Mexico. Over here into southeastern Mexico. We come to a mountain called Popocatépetl, or Little Popo. I don't know why they call it Little Popo, but they do. Popocatépetl also erupted today. It was a major eruption at Popocatépetl today. A 22,000 foot eruption, 6,700 meters high. Popocatépetl, a major eruption, 22,000 feet, 6,700 meters high. Huge eruption. Okay? Then, not to be outdone, but we've talked about eruptions. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to burp in your ears, guys. I don't know where that came from. But over here in Java, we have another volcano erupted. Semeru volcano erupted. This wasn't as bad, only 7,000 feet high. 7,000 feet high. Then we go north. Who would have thunk? Let's go north. I believe it's right over here. We have another volcano. It's called Dukono volcano here in central Indonesia. Dukono volcano erupted up to 7,000 feet high, which is very typical. Dukono nearly erupts almost every day. Nearly every day. Dukono volcano. But not to be outdone again. Over here in northeastern Mindanao, Philippines, we have another volcano. We talked about this. It's called Mayon Volcano. Actually, this is not it. It's on Luzon Island. I'm sorry. I'm going to go find Luzon Island here. Up here in the North Luzon Island in the Philippines. It's I believe it's right here. It's one of these. Maybe it's right here. Folks, this volcano also erupted. Mayon Volcano. Okay? Now, I have a picture of this, in fact. Let me ditch this map really quick. Let me show you a picture of Mayon Volcano. This is Mayon Volcano today. We talked last week about it erupting, didn't we? And it was a major eruption. We showed you the eruption. Well, folks, it's still erupting and it's spilling lava down the sides of the volcano. Huge mass of lava down the side of the volcano today. Okay? The lava flow has increased. The lava flow has increased here. The effusive eruption at this volcano is continuing. The viscous lava flow is spilling out from the summit, which has increased in length over the past 24 hours. The main lava flow front has reached 800 meters to 1,000 meters. From 800 to 1,000 meters distance from the crater. Okay? That was at 12:08 a.m. this morning, which is actually Wednesday morning there in the Philippines. Glowing lava blocks. Where have we heard that term before? One, Popocatépetl, Shibalus volcano, and some of the others. Glowing lava blocks frequently detach from the lava flow and roll over the southern Miizi and the southeastern Basud gullies, descending approximately 2 kilometers distance from the summit. That's 1 mile distance from the summit. Okay? As of 12:42 a.m. local time Wednesday, this ash column has risen to 2.7 kilometers and it's drifted east-northeast. Sulfur dioxide levels, SO2 emissions, reached 723,000 tons. 723 tons of sulfur dioxide just yesterday. Just yesterday. Now they are saying that what is going on may indicate volcanic gases and or magma is reaching shallow levels, meaning it may not continue erupting for very much longer. The long-term ground deformation suggests the ongoing uplifting of the edifice, the volcano, on the northwestern and southeastern slopes in particular. That's happened since 2020. Now, people are being forbidden to enter this area of 6 kilometer distance, 3 miles distance around the summit, due to impacts of rockfall. Rockfall. Big, huge volcanic lava blocks falling. Rockfalls. Pyroclastic flows of lava. And phreatic eruptions. Phreatic eruptions typically occur when the magma is somehow mixed with some kind of water and there's an explosion. The alert level for this volcano remains at level 3. Level 3 here at this volcano. Now, folks, this may continue for a while. We don't know how long it's going to continue, but we know that it will continue. Now, I want to take you over to the islands of Japan for a minute. Okay? Let's leave Mayan volcano here and let's go over to Japan. Yes, we do have people in Japan that watch this program. And we have relatives of those people that watch this program here in the United States. Thank you, Rob, for asking that everybody. He says, don't forget to give Ron a big thumbs up tonight. We have 101 thumbs up, guys, and we really appreciate that. Also, please, folks, don't forget to share this program. We're giving you a lot of good information today. A lot of valuable information. Over here, off the coast of southeastern Luzon Island, we have another 4.9, 5.0 large earthquake that hit over here. This is 7 miles, approximately, I believe it's just over 6.5 kilometers west-northwest of Cabra, Philippines. A 5.0 earthquake over here in, and I believe this is the Taiwan Sea here, or the Chinese, I'm sorry, the South China Sea. The South China Sea here, okay? Let's go over here to Honshu, Japan. And I'm not sure exactly where Sabankaya volcano is. It's a volcanic complex nonetheless. No, that's a town there. I'm not sure where Sabankaya or not Sabankaya, Suwanese Jima volcano, or not, it's not Suwanese, Sakurajima volcano, over here in Japan, Kyushu, Japan. It's been erupting for a while now. Almost 3 weeks with almost no or significant explosions. The volcano seems to be back in its typical state of activity that's been going on for years. But it has been going on for a long time, and it's been quite elevated. It's been elevated during the past few years because Sakurajima volcano has been erupting and continues to erupt. Okay? The last year around September 1st, the Showa SHOWA crater at Sakurajima resumed erupting. There were volcanian type explosions at the Showa crater at Sakurajima. Huge explosions. Now, 3 days ago, the alert level was downgraded from alert level 5 to alert level 3 as of last Tuesday, as signs of unrest and risk of sudden major explosion have decreased. It's only at alert level 3 right now. No rapid crustal movements have been detected as of a few days ago. This suggests that there is an inferred magma intrusion that has stopped. A magma intrusion that has stopped, folks. What does that mean? A magma intrusion means magma has stopped coming up into the volcanic chamber at Sakurajima volcano. It's actually stopped now. There's been no more further magma incursion into Sakurajima volcano. But folks, this is not the only volcano that's erupting over in Japan. It's not the only one. There's more, guys. There's more. Let me excuse me. Oh gosh, where did my, there it is. Hold on a second. Now, there is even more volcanic activity in Japan. If you hadn't thought that it's possible, okay? There's more. Now, I find it very interesting what is actually going on with all these volcanoes. Okay? So far, we've talked about the volcano Shiveluch in Russia. We've talked about Popocatépetl in southeastern Mexico. We've talked about Fuego. We've talked about Nevado del Ruiz. We've talked about Sangay volcano. We've talked about Reventador volcano. That's 7 volcanoes there. We've talked about Dukono and Semeru volcano in Indonesia. That's 9. The 10th one was this volcano over in Luzon Island, Philippines. That was 10. 11 was Sakurajima. Folks, there's another one. There's another one down there just south of Japan. Okay? Down here just south of mainland Japan. This is called Sulawesi-Ejima. Sulawesi-Ejima volcano. Sulawesi-Ejima volcano has been erupting for quite some time, off and on. Okay? Today, there's another 5,000 foot eruption at Sulawesi-Ejima volcano. It's still erupting. And off and on, it's going to continue erupting. It's not going to stop. Okay? I just don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. Okay? When you get these volcanoes that erupt like this, it almost is like an act of God for these volcanoes to stop. It really is. God runs a show, we know that. God runs a show. But these volcanoes continue to erupt over and over and over again. Okay? So far we've talked about 7 volcanoes. 17 volcanoes. 17 volcanoes just today. And usually we have 20 volcanoes somewhere throughout the world that are erupting. And guess what? Sulawesi-Ejima is not the only one. It's 17, but it's not the only one. There's another volcano over here in Indonesia. Okay? Let's go down here into Indonesia. Right here between Sumatra and Java in eastern Java, Indonesia, we have another volcano. Can anybody tell me what this volcano is? Krakatau volcano. Krakatau volcano has been erupting for a very, very long time, and it's still erupting. Krakatau, that's number 18. There's more, guys. There's more. Not in Indonesia this time. This time we're going over here to Europe. We're going over here to Europe. Can anybody tell me where we're going? Do you have any idea where we're going over here? Can you see Mount Etna? Mount Etna is still erupting, guys. Mount Etna is erupting. And it's not the only one. Stromboli volcano. It doesn't look like much here. Maybe this isn't it. That's another rock over there. Another island here. Maybe it's over here. And yes, this is an old map. Stromboli volcano is also erupting. And Mount Etna and Stromboli put on shows every night when they're erupting, because they have incandescent lava running down the surface of the volcano, down the sides of the volcano. And with lava fountains poking up as well, they put up quite a show here. Mount Etna and Stromboli make 19 and 20. We have 20 volcanoes erupting here around the world just today. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, I left out one. There's 21. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. There's actually 21 volcanoes going. My bad. Gosh, I can't believe it. I almost blew it. There's actually 21 volcanoes going. This is Aveyah volcano. This is south of Kamchatka Peninsula. It's out on an island here south of Kamchatka Peninsula. Okay? Aveyah volcano has been erupting for quite a while. This one is at 10,000 feet high. Flight level 100. Flight level 100. Aveyah volcano is also erupting today. Okay? Suwanee-Zajimu is 6,000 feet. I told you about that. Mayon Island has been erupting as well. Okay? We told you about Semeru. We told you about Ducono. Okay? Popocatépetl, Fuego volcano. Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia, haven't we? Sangay and Reventador. Now there's also another volcano over there in Ecuador that is not erupting. It's called Cotopaxi volcano, just south of Reventador volcano. It's not erupting today. There's no volcanic emissions seen from that volcano. And then down there in southern Peru, we have Sabancaya volcano. Does anybody have any questions? We have 21 volcanoes that have been erupting today. Literally all over the world, from Italy, east, all the way over into South America. Literally all over the place. Rob just reported another 3.0 over there near Ferndale, California. Just off the coast of Ferndale, California, 19 kilometers west-southwest of Ferndale, California. Folks, where is that? It's in the southern, it is in the southern part of the Cascadia subduction zone region. The Cascadia subduction zone region. Just a second, let me fix this map and I'll show you where that is. I have to reset this map because USGS doesn't like us telling people what's going on. But we got it back. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. This earthquake in red here is that earthquake that's just off the coast of Ferndale, California. This is a 3.0 earthquake. Okay? Southeast of there is another earthquake in Petrolia that we told you about. This is a 2.0 earthquake. And for all intent possible, even this earthquake is in the Cascadia megathrust earthquake region. It's still in the region even though it's a bit inland. It's in the Cascadia region. Okay? All kinds of earthquakes. Literally all kinds of earthquakes. Yesterday I showed somebody at a phone store. My old phone stopped working. I couldn't make calls and couldn't take calls. I got a new phone yesterday. Thank you for everybody that's helped me with donations here on this channel. That has either sent them through Venmo or PayPal or has sent them in the mail. I appreciate all that you all do. God bless you all. So we were able to replace our phone yesterday. Okay? Thank you all for that. Over here in Alaska, Okay? This is over in what I call the hand of Alaska, western Alaska. This is a 3.8. This is a small 3.8 magnitude earthquake west-southwest of Golovin, Alaska. Golovin, Alaska here. Now folks, over here in the Bering Sea, we had a 5.0 earthquake here. It's no longer here today. Yesterday we had a 5.0 earthquake here in the Bering Sea. Okay? We've had other activity here as well. The 5.0 earthquake here was the largest that we've seen in a very, very long time. Hopefully we won't see anything else anytime soon. That was a shocker, I must say, for myself. I didn't expect it. Down here in the Aleutian Island chain here, this is ADAC, actually it's not ADAC, this is 81 miles west-southwest of ADAC, Alaska. Okay? This is a 5.3 large earthquake. A 5.3 large earthquake. It's on the earthquake fault zone. Okay? On the earthquake superhighway here in the Aleutian Islands. It didn't harm anybody. Most of these islands here are not inhabited islands. Okay? Nobody felt that 5.3. The ocean waters also absorbed the shock waves of that. Okay? Over here further to the northeast, it's a 2.7 in the Andreanough Island region. Andreanough Islands itself. Down here southeast of there, we have another 2.8 earthquake here. Okay? In the water. This one here is right next to a volcano. In the water right next to a volcano. Again, this was a 2.7. What does that say about that volcano? We've had seismic activity around that volcano for a long time. Okay? We go further east. This one's near Atka, Alaska. 70 miles east of Atka, Alaska. This is a 1.7 tremor. Okay? Over here in Alaska, when I was getting my new phone yesterday, I was showing the lady earthquakes over here in Alaska. Guess what, folks? There was one earthquake here in mainland Alaska yesterday afternoon. One. As I told her, there's usually 50 to 60 earthquakes here in Alaska, and you can see what I'm talking about right now. Yesterday there were 4. One here in mainland Alaska, and it was near here, near Anchorage. Down here near Anchorage, Alaska. The other earthquakes were down here in the Aleutian Islands yesterday. Okay? I also explained to her that this agency that we all know and love doesn't always tell us exactly where these earthquakes hit. For example, this is a 2.1 earthquake. They're calling this Central Alaska. This is nowhere near Central Alaska. This is in Denali National Park. This tremor just north of there. This is a 1.3. Would anyone like to venture a guess where USGS says this is? They say this is 39 miles southeast of Denali National Park. Southeast of Denali, it is in Denali National Park. Again, the agency is lying to us. Heaven forbid we ever find out the real truth of what is happening. They'll tell us we have earthquakes, but they will not correctly define where they are. Over here, this is an earthquake near Ellison Air Force Base, 4 miles south of Ellison Air Force Base here in Alaska. This is a 1.1 tremor. Further north, this is actually Central Alaska finally. Remember that one that he said was in Central Alaska? Central Alaska is a lot further north. This is actually Central Alaska. However, USGS is defining this as 11 miles south-southeast of Central Alaska. Really? Really? Yes, it could move even further west to be in actual Central Alaska, but basically anywhere between southern Alaska and the north shore of Alaska. Yeah, this would be called southern or Central Alaska, but they say it's 11 miles east-southeast of Central Alaska. Crazy. Rob 52 says their campus is broken. Oh yeah, their campus is big time broken. Big time broken. It's incredible how broken it is. I told you about those earthquakes hitting over near Sitka, Alaska yesterday. This is another 2.6 earthquake here near Sitka, Alaska today. 16 miles northwest of Sitka, Alaska. What do we know about Sitka, Alaska? There's a volcano there, isn't there? Yes, there is. The Sitka volcano. It's right there. It's right there. And it's been rumbling. It's been rumbling. They don't tell us exactly what's going on. You have to go over to the Alaska Volcanic Observatory and look at the seismograms to find out what's actually going on. Sitka volcano is rumbling. All of the volcanoes are actually rumbling, guys. They're all rumbling, regardless of whether USGS says it or not. Look at these volcanoes over here in Washington and Oregon. They're not telling us one word about what's going on here. This is Canada here. This is Washington and Oregon here. Not one single word about tremors and earthquakes either around or away from the volcanoes. And I just got through showing you yesterday that these volcanoes and all over this area are rumbling. And it's not just magma, it's tectonic plate rumbling. Tectonic plate rumbling. I told you about earthquakes over here last night in the Imperial Valley here in Southern California. Down here near Holtville. I told you about earthquakes over here at the Salton Sea Desert Research Station. There were a bunch of tremors, weren't there? Lots. Guess what, folks? Today, the USGS is showing us some earthquakes, some tremors. This is a 1.5 in Holtville. This is a 1.3 in Holtville. This is a 1.8 tremor in Holtville. This is a 1.1, 5 miles south-southwest of Holtville. Interesting. And this tremor, guys, you can't help but laugh at what they're doing here. This is a 1.0 in the United States. USGS has this as 6 miles northeast of Mexicali. Mexicali is down here, guys. That's Mexicali. This earthquake is almost closer to Holtville than Mexicali. It's incredible. They'll put an earthquake and reference it to Mexicali, which is down here at the border. This is the Mexicali border crossing right here. By the way, this is called the Tijuana River. The Tijuana River here. Just so you know. But these are earthquakes down here near Hopeville, California. We know for a fact there's a lot more tremors and earthquakes here than they tell us. It's crazy, guys. It's total lunacy. Okay? Down here off the coast of Baja California today. This is a 2.0 earthquake here, 25 miles southwest of Primo Tapia, Baja California. Okay? Let me show you something. Folks, this is Ensenada, right there. Out here, this is that earthquake. This is like 25 miles northwest of Ensenada, Mexico. Wouldn't it be easier to tell us about an earthquake that happened to a very common point of reference? This one here, guys, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. This is 12 miles west-southwest of Tecate, Mexico. Tecate, Mexico, guys. Let me show you something. Okay? This is the U.S. border here. That's the U.S. border. Okay? Tijuana is right here. Tijuana is right here. This is Tecate right here. Okay? This earthquake, guys, this earthquake is closer to Tijuana. This whole area, folks, is Tijuana, Mexico. This whole area is Tijuana. So actually, if you really want to get down to it, they say this is 12 miles west-southwest of Tecate. It's actually closer to Tijuana. Tijuana. One earthquake in San Diego County area. In my old digs in Lakeside, California. Lakeside, California, guys. This is a 1.2 tremor north-northwest of Lakeside, California. Where is this? This is in Lakeside, guys. They say it's 3 miles north-northwest of Lakeside. It's in Lakeside. You cannot get any closer to Lakeside if you dropped in on a helicopter. Okay? That's Lakeside there. That's Lakeside there. I used to live there. And yes, this is the lake there. That's the lake. Anyway, guys, I'm not going to fool around with this anymore tonight. That's our story that we have to give you tonight. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we said tonight? Any questions? Penny Salmons is here, Vicky's here, Kimberly's here, still here. Diana Large is here. Demon Catman, my friend from the east of England, is still here. That's awesome. Awesome. My friend Rob is here. Kim is here. Joanna's here. Dan's here. Who else is here? Brenda Turner's here. Linda Covington is here. Yes, Linda said Mexico's getting hit big time. Yeah, oh yeah, all over. And they're not, USGS is not even showing any real earthquakes in southern Mexico. There's about 25, 30 earthquakes in southern Mexico. Not showing them. Not showing any earthquakes in Central America at all. There's about 15 earthquakes in Central America. I did it again, Central Mexico. Okay? Bunches of earthquakes all over. Tasman's here. Thank you for being here, Tasman. Appreciate you being here. Richard Smith is here. We appreciate all of you guys that are here, guys. It means a lot to me. Elaine Galling is here. Appreciate her as well. Appreciate everybody. Any questions, guys? Brenda's asking what can we do now or later for those of us that can't leave California or won't leave California. Easily, guys, easy. Write an emergency preparedness plan. You may have to evacuate where you're at. You might have to stay in California someplace, but you may have to evacuate your home. Make a plan. Write down a plan. And it doesn't have to be necessarily an earthquake. It could be a flood. It could be a tornado there. Yes, you get tornadoes in California. Huge wind events. The Santa Ana winds go through. They're blistering. 60, 70 miles per hour. What if it blows down your house? Yes, it's possibly not going to do that, but it could severely damage your house where you would not be able to live in it. What are you going to do then? Floods and rains happen all the time. What are you going to do if your house is flooded out? You've got to evacuate someplace. Write a plan and what you plan to do. Include every kind of emergency or disaster that might face you. And if you don't know of any, go over to your fire department. Contact the city where you live or the county where you live and ask to talk to an emergency manager and ask them what disasters or emergencies could happen where you live. And they'll be happy to tell you. They'll also tell you to write a plan, just like I am now. And to store food, and even survival food. Have an emergency preparedness kit. Have a medical kit too. Have personal supplies. Have clothes and even foul weather gear, whether it's snow or rain. You got to have garments to go outside sometimes. Okay? Think of all these things that you have to do, and also you need to store some water. You need to store some water. Those are the biggest things. Okay? Kramelos says, how thick is the crust at foot of NAM crater? I don't know what you're talking about. Which crater is that? NAM. Yeah, Tomas, we saw that 3.0 earthquake off the coast of Northern California from Ferndale, California. We saw that. Okay? You need to at least have a plan. You need to have food and water. You can't survive without it. Okay? A 4.9, 5.0, which is a large earthquake down in the Kermadec Islands. The Kermadec Islands are not inhabited islands. The only thing that inhabits there is birds. It's a bird sanctuary. A large earthquake down in the Kermadec Islands today. And that's the other thing. USGS almost never shows us earthquakes down in New Zealand or even Australia. There are earthquakes down there. Lots of them. Brenda Turner says she's a California transplant, got tons of family up and down the entire West Coast. Oh yeah, I know the feeling. I've got kids. My ex-wife lives down in San Diego. I have at least two kids and grandkids live in San Diego County. Do you think I'm crazy about that? No. I want to get them out of there. Vicky K says the North American Craton is what he's talking about. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. How thick is the crust of the North American Craton? The crust thickness depends on where you're at. Okay? Anywhere between 39 miles deep and 69 miles thick. 39 miles thick to 69 miles thick, depending on where you're at. Okay? It's thick, but it's not thick. If you think in relative terms, that's not thick at all. And anything could happen, and it probably will. Okay? That's why that there is magma down there also in the crust, and all of a sudden it finds a hole, and it starts inching upward in terms of what they call a dike. As that magma reaches up through the hole there, the dike, it's coming up closer and closer to the surface. And all of a sudden it gets there and it starts pounding away on the surface rock. And occasionally there's a water table and it hits the water table, and that creates even more steam and more pressure, and then it erupts. It erupts to the surface. 6 to 7% of all magma is water. And when all that hot superheated magma, 2,000 plus degrees, hits that cool water, it steams out. And the force of that huge explosion with magma and water, it reaches up through the surface and explodes. Poof! Okay? That's what happened in southeastern Mexico about, I want to say 70 years ago. A farmer was plowing his field down there in southeastern Mexico, and then all of a sudden he saw steam coming up through a hole in his field. And within a few hours, that hole got bigger and bigger, and the mound around that hole grew and got higher and higher. And within a couple of weeks, he had a volcano in his field. That's how volcanoes happen. That's how volcanoes happen. Any other questions, guys? Kramelot says, can't find any dirt around here, it's all rock. Yeah, there's a lot of rock. I don't know exactly where you live, but there's a lot of rock. Okay? If you live in the Rocky Mountains, you're going to see rock of all kinds all the time. Literally all the time. That happens. Hold on a second. I want to... Okay, I'll call him back a little bit later. That was my friend Art over in Chino, California. Anyway, guys, I'm going to get off the air here. I hope you've had a good night. I want to share a scripture with you before I do. Okay? I didn't see Hurricane Heather here, and she really loves these, but I want to share with the scripture anyway. Okay, this is what I always do. My friend Don Patoka is here. I appreciate Don here as well. Don is one of my dearest friends, and I get excited every time I see him. Kramelotz is down 10 miles south of Branson, Missouri. Oh yeah, there's a lot of rock over there. You got a ton of rock over there. It's incredible what you have over there. You get into the hills and mountains over there, you're going to hit lots of rock. Not surprising. Anyway, guys, I picked this scripture because it defines who God is. Okay? It says here there's only one God. Yea, the very eternal Father of heaven and earth. And thus the flesh becoming subject to the Spirit. or the Son to the Father, having one God. Suffereth temptation, this is Jesus Christ, and yielding not to the temptation, but suffereth himself to be mocked, and scourged, and cast out, and disowned by his people. And after all this, after working mighty miracles among the children of men, he shall be led as sheep before the shearer is dumb. So he opened not his mouth. Yea, even so he shall be led, crucified, and slain, the flesh becoming subject even unto death, the will of the Son being swallowed up in the will of the Father. And thus God breaketh the bands of death, having gained the victory over death, giving the Son power to make intercession for the children of men. Having ascended into heaven, having the bowels of mercy, being filled with compassion towards the children of men, standing betwixt them and justice. Having broken the bands of death, taking upon himself their iniquity and their transgressions, having redeemed themselves and satisfied the demands of justice. Satisfying the demands of justice. Yeah, the Romans and everyone else wanted him dead. Sad. But Christ knew what he was doing. He broke the bands of death for us, making a way that we can return to him and our Heavenly Father in heaven. Folks, I know this is true. As I said, I love each and every one of you. I love the Savior. He's my Savior and your Redeemer, our Redeemer. I appreciate you all here. My friend Carolyn Martin in Denver's here. She's saying, take care, be ready, practice crisis response. I agree. Practice crisis response, guys. That's one more thing we have to do. Because we will be the doctors and the nurses out there. The normal doctors and nurses will be busy elsewhere. We will be out in the field, helping our fellow man, serving our fellow man. I love each and every one of you. Folks, if anything else happens tonight, we will be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. I love you. I appreciate each and every one of you. May God be with you. May God bless you. May God hold your hand. May God hold you in the palms of his hands, and even protect you. God be with you till we meet again. I hope you have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same bat station. Have a good night, everybody. God bless. See you soon. God be with you till we meet again. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Here we go. Good evening, folks. This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates. This is Ron Tyler with Emergency Management Transition is coming to you live from the crossroads of the West in Utah. The time right now is 7:05 p.m.
Very well, that's the Sunday. And then right now, getting a purpose for getting 3.5 miles southeast of the Earth Canal. Also,
Good evening, folks. This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency